All right, where else are you guys watching from? Drop your city and state before we get into it. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about dating tips. These are just some reminders that it's very important for us women to have. I have to say this, and I say this lovingly because obviously everything I teach, most of it I've learned from mistakes. So it's not like I just have made no mistakes. But a lot of times as women, we tend to, oh, thank you, Bobby. That was a very sweet compliment. We as women, we tend to overcomplicate things a lot of times. And guys are so simplistic, usually. They're just extremely simplistic. But a lot of times we try to fill in the blanks, we try to guess, we assume, and a lot of times we assume incorrectly. So I wanted to do just a free refresher for those of you who are in the dating space. A lot of this stuff is stuff that we know on some level, but sometimes we just have to hear it again. The first thing that I want to say is that when we are dating, we need to have fun, okay? Have fun. Relationships are hard, and I'm not trying to be negative, but they are a lot of work. Once you've committed to that person, there's not a lot of like mystery and suspenseful moments. So even though there is a lot of crap you have to deal with dating, there's crap on the other side too, right? Not being pessimistic, but just being realistic. So you have to really enjoy the benefits of everything. It's kind of like a kid, having a child is a beautiful thing, but you also can appreciate not having kids and being able to just sleep in whenever you want and go out and not get sitters. So you have to learn to enjoy whichever side of the fence you're on. So the first thing is, do not forget to have fun. The biggest thing is that a lot of us women, we stress ourselves out unnecessarily. The beautiful thing is that as the people who are more passive in the dating situation, meaning we are not the one who has to take the lead. If you're dealing with masculine men, they're doing the heavy lifting at the beginning. You already know if you're asked out that there's an interest there, okay? One of the reasons why I say let men lead is because our little egos are fragile and it's really hard for us to take rejection. Or we might reach out to a guy and he might just be too awkward to say no, and now he's kind of going out with you out of obligation. There are some men who will do that, okay? Or they just think that you're hot and they'll go out with you, but they're not truly interested. So the first thing is, don't stress yourself out. Understand that if he asked you out, he's obviously interested on some level. And unless you're doing something absolutely crazy on the date, you're getting drunk, you're acting a fool, just being yourself, there's really no way that you can lose, because either you're going to compliment each other and he's going to be interested and want to move forward, or you're not. And the same thing can happen with you. Either you're going to vibe with him or you're not. We have to stop attaching our self-worth with the way dates go. Because if you think about it, right, you could be the hottest person in the world. Think about, I like to use the example of The Bachelor, right? You have the Bachelor or the Bachelorette. These are, very attractive people, but not every single person is attracted to every other person. And it has no, it is not an indication of how valuable they are. To me, I think it's almost like a chemical thing. You can't control who you're attracted to physically. You can't control who you're attracted to emotionally. It's either there or it's not. So have fun, take the stress out of it, stop overthinking, and don't attach your ego to it. You basically could just say, well, this is a person I can cross off the list. The other thing that women do incorrectly, in my opinion, that sets us up for failure is we live 20 steps ahead. So you might have the guy who, meets you somewhere, you exchange numbers, you're already fantasizing about him from the beginning. You're already imagining, oh my gosh, if we're together for this long and we could have kids when I'm dead. You haven't even gone the first date and you're already living 10 years down the road. That is setting you up for major failure. Understand that it is not hard for a woman to catch feelings because we are very emotional. We are very tapped into our emotions. So you want to, as much as possible, do things that are going to curb your emotions until you have the clearance, until you have the green light. 2 ways that you'll have the green light. 1, time has gone by, so you've actually had a chance to get to know him, to see if you even like him, because him liking you is just one small step. He needs to go through the process of you making sure he's a good fit for you. And then other side is that he also needs to catch those feelings. So if you can pace yourself, and we all know what it's like, you can either sit around pining over this person, constantly thinking about things. And that's how you develop feelings, is all the time you're allowing yourself to entertain, because you can't 100% not like somebody, right? You can't control your emotions 100%, but you can control if you're just sitting around pining away, pining away. For example, if you're expecting a phone call, you can sit around waiting for that call, or you can put your phone down and go out and do something. So we have to be careful that we are not living years into the future, dates into the future. Take it one step at a time. The other thing is that we don't want to project onto a guy. A lot of times what I'll see, because I love watching these dating shows because it really shows you the mindset of the people. A lot of times they will try to read into what the guy is thinking or feeling instead of just letting him tell you. If you have ever had a guy like you, he makes it crystal clear. I mean crystal clear. Even the guys that you don't like back, right? They make it super clear. There's no room for confusion. But for some reason, when we as women like a guy, it's like we don't acknowledge what's actually happening, or we can act like we are further in the process. If you've ever talked to one of your girlfriends who met a guy she likes, and to hear her talk, you would think they've been together for months, and they might have just gone on one date or had one phone call. So, and again, getting back to the ego thing, a lot of times you don't even actually like the guy. Your ego is getting stroked because you're so flattered that he likes you. Same thing with being rejected. Your ego is what's hurting. It's not that you are super into this guy, because you haven't even had a chance to really develop true feelings. So the ego is a big, big thing. So I just want to encourage people. This is just a quick refresher, but just enjoy yourselves on the date. Really see if you guys are getting along. And this might not be popular, but my opinion is that you should let the guy take the lead, because I feel that it's really important for the guy to be invested, because as women, we tend to fall quicker. So I think that if you wait and let the guy take the lead, you already know how you feel, but you don't have to worry about whether or not he actually likes you, or he's just being nice when you say, well, where is this going? Or what is this headed to? A lot of times guys can feel put on the spot, and someone that they're actually into, it could be a turnoff because it feels like they're being forced. And it's interesting because guys are very, we can paint them out to be these dogs and they're so insensitive. But the reality is there are a lot of good guys, and the good guys don't want to hurt a woman's feelings. So if you rush that process, it kind of puts him in that awkward place where he wants to be nice, but at the same time, he might not be feeling it. And here's the thing. You might be asking him 20 days in how he feels. He's not there yet, but maybe 40 days in, he would have been there. But because you asked him, you kind of rushed things, you made it a little bit awkward. And then if he says, no, he's not feeling the same thing you're feeling, you might be so hurt, your ego is wounded, you might not want to talk to him anymore. But the reality is he just needs a little bit of time. So for me, I would say to somebody, if you're having fun, I'm not talking about 6 months, 8 months, because it doesn't take people a year to recognize sunshine, right? But if you're just getting to know him, you've only gone out a couple of times, just enjoy the process. And if you guys are not exclusive, feel free to see other people until he says, I want you to be mine, I want to be exclusive. But this time should be just spent seeing, how does he respond to certain scenarios? How do you guys get along? Do you both communicate with the same frequency? Are you guys on the same page? Is that attraction there in person? All of these things should be what's happening during the first couple of dates, instead of, putting his last name on yours and imagining how the two of you guys would look together. I think that, especially if you've been single for a long time, it's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of things and to forget he's a real person who needs to be vetted. The other thing is that in the first 3 months, it's been proven that you have major chemicals going off in your brain. So it's like being high. You're super, super excited. So your vision is not the clearest. And so, especially if you guys get physical, you're not spending a lot of time talking about your goals in life. You're not talking about how you want to raise kids, these heavy hitting questions. So it takes a little while for the high to come down and you guys to start to settle into a groove. I'm sure you've been with somebody before where the attraction is so strong that you're just physical whenever you're together, and there's little to no talking happening at all. So it's really important to just slow down. The other thing that I want to say is this. and I'll be doing a reel on this shortly, is really observe how he treats you at the beginning, ladies, and guys too. At the beginning, because you're so high on all these, chemicals, the dopamine and all that stuff, it's easy to see the person at their best, and therefore you're also at your best, and you're just so infatuated with each other. Well, if you think about that, that means that both of you are at your best behavior. So if you meet somebody and you're like, I'm not really sure, but there's potential. Maybe if he does this, or maybe she improves that, maybe this could be good. That's a little bit scary, because this is the person at their best. This is typically the person showing you the best that they have, and it's not something they're consciously doing. So try not to give the person too much, credit if they haven't shown you something. How they are is pretty much how they are. And that's why I say it's important to really try to, if you can, wait 90 days to really make a decision. And I don't mean sit there and tell the person, there's 90 days before this happens. It's just a more of an internal check going, okay, I can't really trust too much of what I'm feeling the first 3 months, because I know how easy it is to get caught up. So it's a way to sort of pace yourself, because 3 months feels like a long time when it's a new situation. But you look at 15 years down the road, 3 months is like that, right? It goes by really, really fast. So ladies, slow down. As a recap, slow down, take your time, get to know the guy. And remember, you're not off the market until you have collectively decided that you're going to be off the market. Oftentimes the woman will go in, she feels like there's a vibe, oh, he's consistently calling or what have you, and so she drops her guard, stops talking to anyone else. She's mentally positioning herself in the girlfriend role. Now it's putting pressure on him, because he's never said that he wanted to be your boyfriend. Things could be going there, but you don't want to put yourself in a relationship in your mind when he hasn't decided and made you his woman. Okay, and like I said, don't forget, you also have to choose for him to be your man. But this is where a lot of the disappointment comes, because there's this expectation that he's in this position that he never agreed to. So the way you protect yourself is remind yourself, I'm not in a relationship until we have decided that. Don't assume. He can't allude to it. Don't think, well, he's been over here this many times, or we've been intimate, or he says whatever. Until he says, I want you to be my girl, keep moving as though you are single and getting to know another single person. Does that make sense? Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, I've been doing a little bit of Q&A, so I think I'll take 3 questions, if you guys even have questions. If not, I'm going to wrap. But if you have a question, drop it in the question box. But you can submit a dating question. This is all my advice. I always welcome feedback. I always like hearing from men especially. But I hear that a lot from guys where, things are going well. I like her, but oh my God, she is pressing me too hard, or I haven't had a chance to really see if she's the one. And so we want to make it fun. And this is something else that somebody asked me to go over, and I think I'm going to do my next official video and not a live stream. Thank you, Jane. Somebody asked the question well, what does it look like to be a guy's piece? Because if you ask men what they want, you ask a woman what she wants, we'll rattle off this list. If you ask guys what they want from a relationship, it's not that much stuff, but they usually always say, be my piece. So if you think about it, most men are pretty self-sufficient. If you try to have an argument about what does a woman bring to the table, most guys will be like, I can cook my own food, and I can wash my own clothes, and I make my own money. And they're very self-sufficient, which is hella attractive, right? We want a masculine man that doesn't need anything from us. But what we can bring is peace. We're like the dessert to the end of the meal. We're like the soft part at the end of his day. We are it's this je ne sais quoi, I hate to overuse that, but you can't quite put your finger on it. We're just this sweet addition to his day. And it's not to minimize what we bring, because I think it's easy for us to think materially well, if am I cooking? Am I cleaning? Am I, bringing 50% of the bills? The reality is, at the end of the day, most men are just looking for that emotional soft spot. They go through their day having to be tough and hard and know all the answers. And then when they're with their woman, it's like, we can do it on our own, right? We have that relationship with our girlfriends and our moms, and we can just be free. But with a guy, that's his place where he can let out all of these emotions. He can be more vulnerable. Being intimate with a woman, it's like you are allowed to be just transparently you, right? So being his piece a lot of times is just being as simple as being upbeat, being positive. And it doesn't mean that you don't have any thoughts, you never have pushback, but you're gentle and kind. And not to be weird and compare it to a mother-son relationship, but you can kind of look at a mother relationship, right? You love your child. You don't have to be nasty to them, but if there's something that they're doing incorrectly, you can speak to it. But you're never going in there angrily, trying to break his spirit, trying to one-up him. You're just loving on him, and if feedback is needed, you give it. So a lot of times I think just being a guy's piece is just being a chill vibe, just being happy, just being pleasant. If there's something to say, not having to pull it out of you, being able to use your big girl words and express yourself. She says, facts, maybe also speak on how to encourage men to open up. You know what I would say is the best thing? Is it Yoni? I hope I'm saying it correctly. Thank you for the comment. I would say that a lot of men have been burned by women weaponizing their vulnerability in the past, right? So like, the saying, it's a trap. So women will say, oh, be vulnerable. And then they open up. And then the first time there's an argument, or you might be in front of someone else, which is even worse, the woman brings it up. So a lot of guys have gone through, men say, I don't want to have to deal with the baggage. I don't want to pay the sins for what your previous guy did. Well, it happens the other side too. A lot of times guys will go into a turtle shell with their emotions because it has been proven that their deepest, darkest, not darkest, but their most vulnerable thoughts are not safe. So the best way that you can encourage a man to open up is to be that safe space. Typically, he will give you, guys, tell me if I'm wrong, but a man will give you little bits. He will open up a little bit. And depending on how you respond and treat that, if you honor his feelings, if you validate his feelings, like a woman will say, oh, tell me the truth. And he tells you the truth, and then you get really pissed off. Well, that's giving him, a subconscious message like, no, don't give me the truth. So if you can be calm, you could be composed. We tend to be very emotional. If we have to start to learn to take a man at his word. So he can give us constructive feedback, right? I think, I feel like I'm jumping around, so I apologize. But as women, we want to feel like we're just perfect the way we are, and there's never going to be a problem. He's always going to think we're beautiful. No other woman could catch his eye. So anytime we get information that's outside from that, it's hard for us to believe that he really does love us, and yet we're not perfect. Thank you, Eric. So if we truly want to be able to be vulnerable, if we want the guy to be vulnerable, we have to put our ego aside and truly just listen. He could say, babe, I don't feel, this, or I don't feel loved, or I don't whatever. And instead of quickly wanting to defend ourselves and say, that's not the case, you want to listen for why. Oh, okay, it's not that I am doing this, but you feel this way because of me doing X, Y, Z. Okay, so instead of X, Y, Z, I'll do 1, 2, 3. I think that will go a long way. Being appreciative versus coming off as entitled. Yes. Thank you, truly. Share your full name, not your full name, but your first name if you'd like to, so I can give you credit for that comment. Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things I have heard men complain about is women acting entitled, especially for the fact that most guys don't ask that much. When a woman flips out, if they do ask for something like a hot meal or what have you, or the opposite, not expressing gratitude when something is done. Men will typically give the world, and all they want is just like a little thank you, a little appreciation. It's like that, that how kids feel when you acknowledge them. Good job, Johnny. You clap the erasers. Really, I aged myself. Way to clap the erasers. And their little chest comes out. Men want to be acknowledged. It's just like at work. You want to be acknowledged. You don't even need a raise sometimes. You just want to be acknowledged for what you are doing. Candace. Thank you, Candace. Okay, she says, Miss B says, listen in a non-judgmental way. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, hey, we got someone watching from Trinidad. Hey, Dexter. Okay, he said, say a simple thank you. And the other thing, thank you, Miss B. Thank you for the badge. I appreciate that. The other thing too that is so cute when you see their reaction is give them compliments. As women, we're used to getting compliments all the time. Men are used to giving compliments. But if you do something as simple as like just rubbing a man's arm, right? And like, oh, you're so strong. Or giving him an opportunity to show his macho-ness. It's this feeling that they get like, yeah, I'm needed, you know? And she appreciates me. Those little things. But getting back to the safe space thing, being vulnerable, you definitely have to give him time. It's kind of like the way a woman takes time typically. I'm stereotyping, but women typically take time to warm up to become physical. But the first date, they could be really open emotionally. Men are the opposite. Men can be very physical very early on, but it takes them a while to feel if this is a safe space. So I've compared that before, and men have confirmed it. So I don't know if the men on this live will confirm it, but if you can put yourself in the opposite shoes and think and switch physical and emotional, it's typically easy for you to go emotional, but you have to warm up to physical. Understand that men can be that same way. It takes them a while to warm up and realize, is this a place that's sacred that I can give my emotions without being hurt? All right, so we have another question. Can I restrict or block a perspective who isn't making moves but viewing my posts or stories? You said, can you? I don't know if you mean should, because obviously you can. But here's the thing. So, I love that. So sweet. Okay. I would wonder why, and this is going to sound like I'm, being shady, but I have to be blunt for this. What I would ask yourself is, why do I care? Why do I care? Thank you so much. Man, I should remember your first name and I'm blanking on it. I actually know Beard of Wisdom. I'm so sorry I'm blanking on your first name, but thank you. I don't want to call you Great Beard. But I would think about this, right? So as women, we can receive or we can reject. So if he's just enjoying your stories, I don't see anything wrong with that. He just can't get access to you. So if you feel like he's not stepping up, you don't really have to do anything. That's the beauty of the passive role of the feminine, is that you don't have to do anything. So unless he's being disrespectful or something like that, I would let him be. Kyle adds a great point. He said, men like to watch your vibe on social media, how you carry yourself. And that's absolutely true. I think it's so funny when women get defensive, guys too, but mostly women. I think guys tend to want to, I'm not comparing men and women. In this situation, I think that men tend to be better at taking criticism from what I have seen, because they're like, oh, noted, because their goal is to win overall. They want to get better. I have seen women get more defensive because they feel like it's a personal attack, instead of going, ooh, if I take in this feedback, I'm going to have better odds when I'm out there in the dating world. And I say all that to say, a lot of times women will post what they want to post on their social media because it makes them happy. But when they are given the information that, hey, you're sending out a signal that is opposite of what you're trying to get. Let's say I'm trying to get vegetarians and I'm posting meat, I'm going to repel vegetarians, right? And so when women are posting certain things, there's this habit of getting defensive, when the reality is we should take it in. So if a woman, you guys might have seen this post that I did where I said a guy will put you into two categories if he is attracted. This is the Q&A section, Illuminati. Illuminati. I gave a refresher course on dating for women, but now we're getting to the Q&A. But what you post on social media is really important. And so if a man is attracted to you, he's going to give you attention, but he's going to give you only two types of attention. It's the type of attention that is simply sexual and it's, I'm appreciating what I'm seeing, or it's the attention of getting to know you as a person. So I think that we have to get past, as women, we have to get past, I wish men would respond this way, or why aren't they responding this way, and deal with how they are responding. If you are leading with a lot of provocative photos, if you are scantily dressed, it is difficult for a man to see you in the light of a partner. And I'll explain this. Men, the way that they love is by protecting. This is the best way I can describe it. It has nothing to do with an insecurity. It's more of a protection. So if you compare like a mama bear and her cubs, it's not that she's insecure about somebody taking her cub. It's the fact that she's protecting that cub from the world. So we think we know how vulgar men can be. Men know 100% because they are in spaces where there are no women to cause them to clean up what they're saying. Men know their own motivations and how they can be, and how, I want to say, even animalistic they can be at times, right? Which we do need that, in, you know, in some degrees. So when a man has somebody that he loves, he does not want other men seeing her in that light. Okay? The comparison would be like if you have a well-endowed man and he's wearing his little gray sweats, you know, you be feeling a kind of way of other women are like, okay, and enjoying it. It is a compliment to me when a man wants to preserve something for himself. Kyle says, provocative photos do not get you a man. Instantly get thrown into the physical pot. You'll get attention, but you need to know what category it's coming from. Absolutely. A lot of men also like men who aren't accessible to everyone. Yes, I think you meant women, right? You brought up a great point. Men love exclusivity. And this was a post that went over really well a while back, and I was explaining how a man could be very turned on and want to have sex, but if he actually likes the woman and she makes it difficult to sleep with him, makes it difficult for him to sleep with her, subconsciously he values her more because he's going to assume this is her standard operating procedure. Like, oh, people can't just roll up in here and get some. Versus if a woman, now you might have curved every single guy in your life, you could have been a virgin and you let him hit the first night. Somewhere in the back of your mind, it's in the back of his mind, it's going to be like, is this just me? And we think about that too, right? As women, we're like, is this how you normally move, or is it just me? You know, Yoni, I'm hoping I say your name correctly. She said, also women judge men on social media. Absolutely. If he's at the club every night, you're probably going to be turned off. Absolutely. What do we look for? We look for, you know, what kind of memes is he posting? Is he posting really chauvinistic memes? Is he posting a bunch of women? There's constantly women. Is he clubbing? You know, all that stuff. I was going to say for me, but I'm going to make it personal what I look for. Thank you, Dexter. I appreciate that. He said, I think you ought to get a book on the market. I actually have one, love. You can go to chasingyancy.com, and I have books. I have one. I interviewed a bunch of guys and I asked them their turn-offs and turn-ons. Yanni. Oh, okay. Like close to Yancy. So without the C. Yanni, Yancy. Thank you, Okra. You're so sweet. You always get badges. But I did a book talking about like the things that men couldn't stand and loved on first dates so that women could go in. So it's First Date 101, a man's guide to dating a man. And Yanni actually mentioned one of the things, and entitlement was one of the biggest turnoffs. Women who just feel like it's me, so I should get whatever I can get, you know, instead of being grateful. I've been hearing so many men say they want to work for a woman. They say it's so easy. These days, it's a bit of a turn off. Absolutely. And the same thing is with clothing. So a guy is going to look at a woman who's scantily clad, but there's something intriguing about a woman who leaves something to the imagination. So it's not about dressing like a nun, you know, you're covered from head to toe, but it could be something like a sundress, right? You think about sundresses, most sundresses cover up a lot of you. Most sundresses are typically long. But it's the fact that it shows off your shape. So there's a rule that I was taught when I was really, really young. And it said there are 3 things you can do to make clothing sexy. You can either show off your shape, which means it's a form-fitting thing. You can show a lot of cleavage, or you can show a lot of leg. When you do all three, you tend to look like a night walker, right? A street walker. So depending on how you combine it, you can kind of do two at a time. But if you do one at a time, it gives you this classic look, but it leaves a little something to their imagination, which is very intriguing. He said, "Hola, chula." Hey, I was going to shout you out, Jose. Good to see you. Very good to see you. Random. I was thinking about you earlier today. So hope all is well. But you want to leave a little bit to the imagination. And like I said, the other thing is there's a wifey vibe that you can give off. So men love for women to look good. Like they don't want a woman that nobody looks at. They want a woman to look good, but they don't want her to look necessarily sexual. Now, this isn't for everyone. Some guys are like, I don't care. My wife can go out in a thong. I don't care. But I would say the average guy would like to leave something to the imagination. I love how he said you don't want to turn a man on early because they'll get fixated on sex. And this is the thing, and I've heard someone say it this way. When you are, and I think I said it in the reel today, if your relationship is sexual at the very beginning, it's really hard to develop the emotional part because it gets confusing. It's like, especially if the sex is really good, it's hard for a guy to distinguish between, do I really like being with her or do I really like her? So it's helpful to both of you to pump the brakes on the physical intimacy as long as possible. And again, it's not a game. It's about trying to set yourself up for the best possible solution. All right. So any other questions? I will take two more if you guys have any more questions. But great comments. You guys are on it today. I really appreciate it. And I will be posting this on YouTube. I've been posting my live streams on YouTube. So if you guys missed the beginning, I went over a lot of what I go in my class. I went through it very quickly, but talking about the do's and don'ts of dating. I think as women, we get in our heads way, way, way too much. Our ego is way too attached. And we just have to have fun. I think guys are a lot better at that, just having fun. He said, just be mindful of which category you want to be in because it's so hard to get out of the bad one. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So I don't think there are any other questions. So I'm going to wrap here. What is today? Today's Tuesday. I hope you guys are having a good week. Thanksgiving is in 2 days. So I hope you guys are going to have a good time and you have good food. My sister is actually on she's going to be trying out a different menu this year. And so I'm a little bit nervous. I'm used to the same old, but she's going to be doing some really healthy stuff this year. Looks like there's a question in the chat box. Okay. Do me a favor. I'll answer the first one, but put them in the question box because they start to scroll up and then I got to sit here like this. So, if you could post the second one. How do you keep from getting tired or frustrated from dating? So I will say this. For me, I take breaks. I will take breaks. I'm very aware of my emotional health, period. Like, that's why I took a whole month off. I took I want to say from mid-October to mid-November, I took a whole month off of social media because anytime I feel unsettled mentally, I will tap out because it's not worth being stressed out. Thank you, Jose. I appreciate that. Shout out to him, you guys. He's an awesome, awesome guy. Made a big difference in my life. Thank you for that badge. Thank you, Eric, for the Thanksgiving wishes. And so, I would say that if it becomes a stressful situation, like it's stopped being fun, you're not enjoying it, then back out. This isn't like a job where you're not going to get paid if you don't go on a date that week, something like that. So enjoy the process. And if it becomes stressful, don't. And it's the same with the relationship, right? Or not if you're in a committed relationship, I'm not saying just jump out of it, but if you're dating someone, you're getting to know someone and you're finding that you're just stressed, it's probably a good sign that it's not the right person for you. So just really be in tune with yourself, which is why I think it's really important to have a lot of time during the day where you don't have any stimulation. You can be going for a walk, you could just be sitting still, but I think we're bombarded a lot with music and TV and conversations and the phone and all this stuff, and we don't have a chance to really tune into what we're going through. So I try to have a lot of time during the day where I'm not being stimulated so that I can check in with myself, a little wellness check, and be like, oh, I'm not really feeling this. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, there was a second question. Okay, perfect. How to rekindle a relationship after infidelity? Ooh, that is a great question. And I saw something earlier from, I think it was my girl Kitty. Okay, she's also in the relationship space, but she was talking about women being in denial about being able to move on. So depending on if it's a marriage or dating, I'm going to talk about it from a dating perspective because marriage is on a whole different level. I think for infidelity, that is something I know for me, I would have to just move on because once that trust is broken, it's really, 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 really hard to move forward. I don't like the person that I become when I don't trust someone. I don't like the feeling of having to question everything. I don't like the anxiety. I don't like second guessing if you're telling me the truth or not. I don't want to be worrying why you went into the bathroom with your phone. For me, I just can't live in that space. So I don't really have great advice on how to move forward with infidelity because that is just a situation I wouldn't want to put myself in. The other thing is that for me, I just feel like that person has demonstrated that my well-being is not at the top of their list. So I would be very wary about moving forward because I just wouldn't trust them. So I wish I was giving something more encouraging, but I wouldn't. I feel like there are just too many people in the world. If you're not married to that person, I would just start over. I don't care if it's been 6 years you've invested, like move forward because that's just constantly going to be in the back of your mind. And I'm speaking from experience. Hopefully that's, oh, they said it's a marriage. Yikes. Okay. In that situation, all right. So that's a total gear shifter. Let me get comfortable. So in that situation, I think that you have to really decide what you want. So when you make your decision, you absolutely have to make that decision. Instead of thinking the glamorized version, right? Okay, I'm just going to forgive and move on and just be focusing on how great it will be to not have the family be broken apart, right? If there's kids or what have you. But if you really do decide, you have to count the cost of what that entails. So if you decide to move forward, you have to have a decision within yourself that says, I'm not going to question this person. I'm not going to bring stuff up again. I'm truly going to bury this because that's been the complaint from people on the other side. Like, I messed up, but I really am not going to do it again. But I can't get past, what happened. Meaning I can't escape what happened. So I think it just comes down to a decision. You have to decide if you are going to stay, there are actions that follow that decision to stay. And like I said, for me, I know that I will keep getting hung up. I will keep getting triggered. I might go a little while and then something will happen. See, I knew. So, but when it comes to marriage, you have to truly be honest with yourself and say, can I forgive this person and absolutely let it go? And once you let it go, it's just a matter of taking it one day at a time and choosing to believe that person. You have to choose to believe that person. If you're staying. And the beautiful thing is that, marriage is supposed to be till death do us part. And there are going to be things that the person does that messes up. So theoretically, we should all hang in there. But, that's something that you have to decide if you can realistically stay. And I can only speak for myself. So the best of luck to, whomever that situation applies to. Okay, Kay says, can you talk about women who lost their husbands from death? When can they date? So this is something someone said earlier and they said can. Oh, thank you, Jenny. You guys are so sweet, with the badges. Thank you. Yes, she said therapy could be helpful. There might be people who specialize in infidelity. That might be important. Oh, and the other thing, so sorry to jump around, but this just popped in my head. There is a book that I have called I think it's The Affair-Proof Marriage. When cheating happens, usually it's the result of a problem. So there's a type of cheater that just cheats because they're insecure and they need their ego stroked. Like that's just them. That's their own issue. But other times the person cheats because there's a void somewhere. So what I would recommend doing if you're the person on the receiving end of the cheating is to get to the root of what it was. Because a lot of times, we vilify the cheater because that's bad. We shouldn't cheat. But sometimes people are put in between a rock and a hard place because they, maybe they have a high sex drive, or maybe they really want compliments, or whatever the thing is. We are the only person that they can get that from. So there is a responsibility on the person who was cheated on's part, if they're going to stay, to at least have that conversation and say, why did you get to that point? Was it just totally selfish? You're just like, I like this person, I want to do this thing. Or was it I didn't really feel like I had an outlet, and so I ended up talking to this person and one thing led to the other. Because then there's an opportunity to be that person for the other person. So I think that's worth looking into. Okay, so the question that you asked about when can they date, I always say it's not for me to say can, because you can do whatever you want. But I think that it's important when you feel healed, and I don't think that you will ever fully, recover from something that traumatic. I was watching a show about a guy who lost his wife, and even though he's dating and things like that, he still really, really misses his wife. They had a great relationship and a child together. So I think that part is always going to be there. There's always going to be pain. But I think that you won't really know until you go out and start dating. I joke about this now, but I thought I was healed from my divorce, and I ended up going on a date, and looking back now, it's super cringy, but I ended up crying on the date. People say like, oh, how was your last relationship? How did it end, or whatever? And I got so emotional from anger and hurt talking about my past relationship that I started crying in this dude's car. And I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine if a guy started crying over his ex, like what that would look like. So sometimes you have to just get out there and see, are you in a place where you feel comfortable? You just have to listen to yourself. That's my personal opinion. I didn't go to school for this stuff. I don't have certifications in this, but that's just my opinion. We have to listen to ourselves, and I think that you will know. Don't laugh at me. We have to listen to ourselves, and if you feel more anxiety than you do joy, then maybe you want to take a little bit of time. I think our body speaks back to us in that way. We kind of know what we need if we just sit back and listen. Hopefully that is helpful. And that's so tragic. Anyone who's lost a spouse or a significant other, I can't even imagine. Okay, guys. All right, so that was fun. I feel bad whenever I have my, you're welcome, Kay. Whenever I have my phone on a surface that I keep bumping, I feel bad because it's like shaking. Is it, how do you pronounce it? Is it Ivant or Ivan? I don't know if it's Ivan T. He said, I lost my wife 4 years ago to breast cancer. I have healed enough to move forward with someone else, but I'm still healing. Yes, I remember your story. It was very beautiful to see the love that you guys had between you two. And I really hope that you were able to find it again. She said, if you're truly self-aware, it won't take you long for you to realize that you might not be ready. Yeah, if you try to go out there too soon. But I say you never know if you don't try. And some people will try to say, whether it's a breakup or whatever, you have to be healed before you do this. Sometimes I think that the healing comes through being in another situation. Let's just say if you have trouble trusting, sometimes you can become healed by the new person showing you that trust. So I think it's a little combination. I mean, I don't think you should be, if we're using a hospital metaphor, you should be bleeding out, but you should at least be stable. But don't worry if you're not out running. Maybe you're walking with a walker. At least you're out there. You can walk assisted, to use that metaphor. But sometimes it is through the new relationship. And sometimes it's just that we've had crappy partners up until now. We might think, oh, this is how it is. No, you just had some really crappy people. And then as you grow and as you develop self-love, then the people that you're dating will change. It's so funny because I did a post where I said, your The people you date are a direct reflection of how you feel about yourself. The type of guys who the younger me would have allowed into my space would not even stand a chance now. Like, I can see certain red flags a mile away. So a lot of times you leveling up is going to make the big difference. Thank you for everyone who tuned in, and a special thank you to everyone who purchased a badge. You guys are amazing. Until next time, tell someone that you love them.